In 1990, 3% of American adults said they had no close friends. Today, that number is closer to 17%, nearly 1 in 5 adults. If you feel like the world got lonelier, you are not imagining it. And if you are one of those people, the ones who go days without a text, who watch other people plan group trips and wonder what that must feel like, this video is for you, not to pity you, to explain you. Because here is the first thing almost nobody tells you. Having no friends is not a personality flaw. It is not proof that something is wrong with you. In most cases, it is the output of a very specific, very trackable psychological process. And once you see the mechanics of it, it stops feeling like a mystery and starts feeling like something you can actually work with. Let's start with the researcher who spent his career studying this. Psychologist John Cacioppo built what is called the evolutionary theory of loneliness. His argument was simple, but unsettling. For most of human history, being cut off from the group did not just feel bad, it was dangerous. A human alone on the savannah was a human who could not share food, could not share warning of predators, could not share childcare. So evolution did what it does. It built loneliness as an alarm system, the same category of signal as hunger or thirst, designed to make isolation feel unbearable enough that you would go fix it. But here is the twist. That same alarm system does something else. It puts your brain on high alert for social threats. Cacioppo's lab found that lonely people process negative social cues, a cold tone, a delayed reply, a joke that might be at their expense, faster and more intensely than people who are not lonely. Their brains are quite literally scanning for rejection before it happens. Think about what that does in practice. Someone who has already been burned by isolation starts a conversation half-braced for it to go badly. They read a flat text message as a sign they have been dropped. They notice the one person who did not laugh at their joke instead of the 4 who did. And because they are bracing for rejection, they often act a little guarded, a little quiet, a little quick to disengage. Which, ironically, is exactly the behavior that makes new people read them as distant and hard to reach. The fear of being left out ends up producing the very thing it feared. That is the loop, not a character flaw, a feedback loop. Now, loneliness researchers make an important distinction here, and it matters. Not having friends and feeling lonely are not the same thing. Some people have shrunk their social world on purpose and are completely fine with it. That's not what we are talking about today. We're talking about something a University of Arizona study led by Matthias Mail actually measured. Mail had people wear recorders that captured snippets of their day for over a week. The happiest participants were not the ones with the most conversations. They were the ones having roughly twice as many deep, substantive conversations and a third as much small talk as everyone else. Meaningful connection, not surface contact, is what tracks with well-being. Which means a lot of people without friends are not actually broken at small talk. Some of them are wired to find shallow interaction genuinely draining, a trait psychologists call need for cognition, a pull toward depth and complexity that makes networking events feel like static on a radio. They are not antisocial. They are mismatched with the format. For others, the roots go back further, into childhood. If a kid grows up in a home where affection felt conditional, where being seen depended on performing well or staying quiet or managing someone else's mood, that kid learns an early lesson. Needing people is risky. So they build independence as armor. Fast forward 20 years and that armor is still on, except now it looks like a grown adult who insists they don't need anyone, who feels a flicker of panic at the idea of relying on a friend, who mistakes self-sufficiency for peace when it is actually a nervous system still protecting a much younger version of themselves. And then there is betrayal, a best friend who talked behind your back, a group that quietly stopped inviting you. The brain does something very literal after that kind of injury. Neuroscientists have found that social rejection activates the same regions of the brain involved in physical pain, not a metaphor, an overlapping neural pathway. So when someone says being excluded actually hurt, they are describing something closer to a real physical event than we usually give them credit for. After enough of those events, the brain installs a shortcut. People equal risk. Distance equals safety. And loneliness, chosen or not, becomes the wall that stops the next wound from landing. Here's the part that should actually worry you, though, more than the social side of it. Isolation is not just an emotional inconvenience. Psychologist Julianne Holt-Lundstad ran a meta-analysis covering over 300,000 people and found that lacking close relationships raises your risk of early death by a margin comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Chronic loneliness keeps the body in a low-grade state of threat, elevated stress hormones, worse sleep, weaker immune function, all the slow costs of a nervous system that never gets the all-clear signal. This is why researchers don't treat friendlessness as a soft topic. It is a measurable health variable, sitting quietly alongside diet and exercise. So if you recognize yourself somewhere in this, here is the actual reframe. The hypervigilance that isolated you was not a personality defect. It was your brain doing exactly what it evolved to do, protecting you at a cost. The armor you built in childhood was not weakness. It was a completely rational response to an environment that made connection feel unsafe. None of that is a life sentence, because the same brain that learned to expect rejection can slowly relearn safety. It does not happen through willpower or through forcing yourself into every social event you can find. It happens the way Mail's research suggests, through small doses of real conversation instead of a wide net of shallow ones. One honest exchange with one person will move the needle further than 10 polite ones ever will. The most important thing to understand is this: solitude and loneliness are not the same state wearing different names. Solitude, chosen and comfortable, can be where a person does their clearest thinking. Loneliness, the kind we've been describing, is what happens when the wall built to protect you starts keeping out the very thing you needed. The goal was never to tear the wall down overnight. It was to build one door in it, just one, and see who you let through.